So do you buy a new home or do you buy an older home? When we have a market with limited inventory, like we've seen in the past decade, and especially in the past 3 years, that is definitely a question many of our buyer clients ask. And of course, the major perk for purchasing a new home is, of course, everything is new. So then the next question becomes, do you purchase what we call a spec home, where the builder has identified the piece of land, they've built one of their typical designs, they've chosen all of the finishes, and you could possibly be ready to move in within maybe a month, 2, 3, 4 months. Or you could do what we call build a custom home. And with a custom home, you get to choose the lot, you get to choose your design, you get to choose your finishes and build your dream home. So that's what we're discussing today. I'm Carrie Kiefer Fisher with 5 Star Real Estate, and I am joined by Todd Roberts with TMR Builders. He's a local popular builder. And Sarah Curry with Lake Michigan Credit Union, one of our obvious choices for not only construction financing, but any type of financing. And Michelle Rocco with 5 Star Real Estate and a teammate of mine. So thanks for joining me, guys. I know that when a buyer wants to buy a home, it's an intimidating process, but when they think of building a new home, that is overwhelming. So today I want us to really just break down the steps, just the basics, and help buyers understand what it takes if they want to build a custom home. So Todd, I want to start with you. And, Michelle and I have sold many of your homes around the area. So tell us about your building background.
I come from a builder's family. I've been doing it for over 30 years myself. My parents built over 3,000 homes in the area, mostly starter homes. And I've kind of taken it from there to go to the next level, from starter homes to what starter homes are nowadays. It could be, from the 350, 400 price point range on up.
Okay, so 30 homes or 30 years. 30 years is a lot of years. So what coverage area do you have? So if we have clients, how far out would you be willing to make the drive to build a custom home?
The contractors I work with are mostly working right around the area of Southwest Michigan. So it'd be like probably a 20-mile radius of Kalamazoo. Okay,
so in a lot of times when someone comes to Michelle or I and they want to consider a new build process, of course we like to identify, do they already have the land picked out? Do we need to help them go find the land? But then the next place I send them, of course, Sarah, is to you, right? Because the financing piece is critical, and that's really going to kind of dictate what they do next, what they can afford, and how the whole process will work for them. So tell me, what kind of questions will you start asking a buyer when they call you? Where do you start?
Well, first, that's exciting, and I cannot wait to be a part of that process. So I would first start out with what they're looking to do. Do they already own a home now? Or are they looking to maybe stay in that home while they build? So I kind of try to uncover their needs and their wants, and then from there have them apply online and be able to get a full view as to what their income and assets are, what their goals are, and how I can help them achieve that.
Okay. So at what point do they start understanding where their budget is? Once you've looked at that whole picture, you'll then give them a pre-approval that says, yes, you can go start that new construction home, and here's how much you can afford.
Yes, so that's the best part. Normally, I will first review the debt to income, and then from there, I would be able to come up with a hypothetical total payment so that they'll know, here's kind of your max. The biggest difference is property taxes, and it depends on which millage rate they're going to end up in. So I do try to watch that, but I definitely give them a pretty solid pre-approval.
So if I have a client that currently owns a home and they would love to start the new construction process, do they have to be able to afford both homes, or are they just qualifying on the new home? Tell me about that.
I give them an option. So I would normally pre-approve them with both payments, just because normally people don't want to move twice. It's in their best interest if they can try to stay in their current home and then have their new home be built. And then that way I'm able to give them a discount there at the end, because some people will end up wanting to sell their home right after they've already built. And then from there, we can take the proceeds from the sale of their home and be able to put it down on their new mortgage with us. That is called a recast, and we offer that, and a ton of people want to take advantage of that. It's only $250 to opt for that.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
I was just going to ask what the fees were for the recast
Yeah,
loan.
one time. Yeah, it's
Okay.
beautiful.
That's great. So then, of course, they get that magical number of what they can get pre-approved for. They can afford both homes. Then they come to you.
Yes, they do.
So where do you start?
I have a couple different options, and one of them being that like they can use their own plan, like you were saying, or they can use one of mine, and if that I've built off of before. And typically, they to get a solid number, they go to all my contractors and they get quotes from how they want to have it built, what they want to put into it, and I compile all the quotes, and then I just add a fee to what the number is, and then it turns into be a cost plus build.
Okay. And somebody might not understand what a cost plus build is. What does that mean exactly?
Whatever all the contractors come up with their pricing from what the customer selected, that's at cost, and then what my fee is on top of that is what I would then combine the two to build it for.
Okay, so the builder's fee basically is
Cost plus.
what that means. Okay.
Yeah, cost plus.
Okay. So how long does it take for that process generally to happen? If they give you a design or choose a design, how long before you might know what that will cost?
About a week to 10 days.
Okay. So within 10 days, somebody could walk away and understand the home that they could build, how much it's going to cost. In that situation, is that number pretty hard fast, or do you generally tend to see that it comes in higher?
It stays a solid number unless the customer ends up does change orders, or they end up wanting to do more. Then that's the customer drives the price to go higher.
Okay.
So Todd, if you have a custom build and you've already been through the 7 to 10 days, you've given them a number and they've made all their selections and they get to the point where like, oh gosh, that backsplash isn't what I wanted. Is there room for change in a backsplash option or windows? I know windows probably are more concrete, set in stone, but is there kind of options for changes?
It depends on if things have been ordered at that point in time. If things have been ordered, materials have been ordered at that point in time, then those materials have to be paid for by what was quoted. But if they want to be able to change that, they would have to pay the overage of whatever.
So there is options for some things to be changed, but there might be additional fees.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's great. So Sarah, the buyer has their number. You now have the official documents between the buyer and the builder all signed, ready to go. What happens next?
The great thing is at that point, they're able to make application. And what that means is I would be able to discuss the current rates at that time in order to lock in the interest rate, because we cannot lock in without a contract. So I would gather the documents from the builder, and I'd already have the documents from the buyer because they're already pre-approved. And at that point, we would move forward with an application. We would lock in the interest rate. We can have either a fixed rate or adjustable rate mortgage, depending on where the market is and where rates are heading, which right now they're heading down. So that's pretty exciting. And then as far as the appraisal, the neat thing is that we order the appraisal based upon the home being completed. So that's a great thing. It's not just, there's a piece of land. It's actually the appraiser will then look at the specifications, the contract, the plans, and be able to say, okay, I definitely see this dream home. So once we do that, we're already sending the loan to processing and underwriting, and we tend to get the underwriting approval back before even the appraisal's back, which is great. I have a good team. And so from there, we would then let them know what the appraisal is once it's been approved by the underwriter. And then from there, we would get ready to schedule closing. The closing would still happen at the title company. It would still be as if it's a purchase. So if someone has already purchased a home, I would say a construction loan is very similar, except they're actually building their dream home, which is once in a lifetime for some people, right? So from there, what we're doing is heading to closing. They get their final cash to close numbers the day before closing. And then from there, we will then see them at the title company and they're closing on dirt. That is what's going to be different. And so
what's that timeline?
That timeline's normally about 45 days.
Okay. So they go to close. And how are the closing fees any different when they do a new construction versus just a purchasing a home that's on the market?
Great question. I would say closing costs are a little bit higher, mainly $1,500 to $2,000, only because of the team that carries them after the closing. So that's roughly what they'd be.
Okay. And you brought up interest rates, which of course is something that everybody is talking about. So what type of interest rate differences do you see in just a regular home that's on the market or a new construction?
New construction rates are a little bit higher. I would say maybe 1/4 to 0.5%, and it would depend on whether it's a fixed rate or an adjustable rate mortgage. The beautiful thing is, though, is because we have a one-time construction loan closing, they're going to be able to lock in, feel at ease with that current rate, and then at the time of completion of their home being built, they get their certificate of occupancy, and we're able to modify the loan, not close it again, just modify from an interest-only payment to a permanent loan. At that point, we would then revisit our rates lower, and even 60 days before they're due to be complete, I will always come alongside there again and see where rates are at and where their current rate is at and see if I can get them into a lower payment.
Okay. Just in case things change.
Yeah.
Right? Which obviously when things are moving around like they have been in the past,
And now we're
year, it's nice to see that.
It's nice to see them coming down.
Is there only the one appraisal you do on a new construction?
Great question. We actually do an appraisal in the beginning, and then we do an appraisal at the end to make sure, well, actually we send an appraiser out. He or she becomes the inspector. So that is actually who oversees each draw during a loan process. So at the end, we do another appraisal just to make sure the value is still there.
Okay.
So it's, I would say 2 appraisals.
Okay.
Okay, so you just brought up draws, right? A lot of people may not have a familiarity with what that even means. So tell me what the draw is and how does that work?
A draw is how we are able to extract funds to get to the builder in order to build the home. So we allot normally 5 draws, which is pretty normal with every lender. And from there, we often even give builders a 15% draw at closing, which they love that because they can get a head start on things and everybody's excited when that happens. So at time of closing, we allot up to 15% of the cost to construct to the builder. And that allows them to get a head start. And then the 5 draws is mainly used for the builder to be able to be refunded back the work that he's already put in so that he can pay his contractors.
Okay, so Todd, somebody closes, their loan is in place. How soon could they expect construction to start?
Immediately.
Okay, so does it matter time of year, snow's on the ground?
It doesn't. Just whenever it comes down to putting foundations in, we typically don't do that if the daytime temperatures are in the 20s. So I mean, it's a year-round process.
Okay, so year-round you could start their home. So from start to finish, you've closed on the loan, you've started your work. How long before somebody could expect that they could move in?
It's about 8 months to a year.
Okay.
Depending on the home plan that I'm building.
Okay, so if it's a smaller home, maybe quicker?
Yep. Probably 6 months from digging the hole.
Okay.
So Sarah, when does a buyer start making payments on that loan?
So that would start once we extract from the loan amount, and it's interest-only payments. So the payments are nice and low during the construction loan. And if they put less than 20% down, they don't pay the PMI, premium mortgage insurance, during the construction loan. It's not due until the end. Often people get lucky and they sell their home and they have equity in it that they can pay down onto the new home and may not ever even see the mortgage insurance or the payment that I originally qualified them for.
Okay. And does that follow along with like the taxes too? So you're just paying the taxes on the vacant land as well?
Great question. So because we don't escrow during construction, we're only taking interest-only payments. The buyer is responsible for their property taxes.
Okay.
Property taxes are only based upon the land at that time until the home is complete and they get a certificate of occupancy from the township. Then at that point, the assessor will then assess the home and the taxes could potentially, of course, change from the land to the fully built home.
But you've kind of factored all of that in as far
In the
as the tax
beginning,
amount. Mm-hmm.
I've already qualified
Approximate.
them in the beginning.
Okay.
Correct.
Nice. If we had a buyer that was approved for an FHA loan, could they build a new home, a construction?
Possibly, it would be depending on why they went FHA. Sometimes people will use an FHA loan because of credit score or debt to income. There's many reasons. So I would definitely look at a construction loan for them. The down payment would differ.
Because sometimes you could switch them to a conventional loan if that were the case.
Correct.
Be creative.
Yes, definitely.
So if considering a dream home is the right choice for you, you want a really good team on your side. So give me a call, Carrie Kiefer Fisher with 5 Star Real Estate, Michelle Rocco, and we'll get you connected with Tad Roberts with TMR Builders and Sarah Curry at Lake Michigan Credit Union.